بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Architect Adnan, Head of Department, CPOS University, and Mr. Sohaib for inviting me. Thank you very much for the generous introduction. Today's talk is based on a timeline that has shaped the trajectory of our office. Before I go into the trajectory of the office, I would like to give you a little background in order to best understand what influences our architecture practice had before I established it in 2011. I was born in Peshawar, raised in Mardan. I went to the Fazl Haq College, Mardan, where I graduated, where I did my O-levels. Thereafter, I came to Edwards College to do 2 years of FSC. And then I got the opportunity to study in the National College of Arts. The buildings of my last 2 alma maters were very colonial. And this had some long-lasting effects on the architectural expressions of the practice. We will discuss this as we go along. Today's presentation is called The Evolution of Design Philosophy. This particular design philosophy is very personal, and it only reflects the trajectory of our practice in the past 13 years. We are an international award-winning architecture company operating out of Islamabad. We specialize in pre-contract design services, and typically project management. The core values that underpin our practice include a one-team strategy where the builders, the thinkers, the designers, and the technical staff are all considered part of one team. Design responsiveness in any project demonstrates your sensitivity to the task at hand. Sustainability is a core value that I discovered back in 2008. Design intelligence is our core value number 4. We're currently spread over the country with a couple of international projects where we had the opportunity to work in Kabul on a couple of projects. Our clients. So this particular presentation is going to take us through the socio-economic effects and the nature of clients, how they shape a particular practice. In this case, our practice. First and foremost, I would like to talk about the philosophy. Our philosophy is based on contextual research. This means before we take on a project, we'd really like to get inside the minds of our clients, and contextually we sort of investigate the constraints of the land that we are about to build on. And buildability is another big factor. So as you can appreciate, it is a normal technical approach, but we have made it part of our philosophy. Socioeconomics is really out of our control, but it really defines the journey of an entrepreneur when you're living in a particular space there are some constraints that are applied upon you. Those constraints you either deflect or you either inculcate in your practice. And the nature of clientele that shape a particular trajectory of your work and your architectural outcomes. We will go through projects, selected projects from 2011 up to 2024. So bear with me as I start with the inception of ideology. This was the first project that we attempted in 2011. Prior to this project, I was consulting for an Australian architectural company by the name of Woods Bagot. This was the project that marked a large milestone in the history of our practice, which was project number one, quitting Woods Bagot and starting AKA. The Embassy of the Philippines, again, contextually, we sort of started looking at the Philippines. The Philippines, like Pakistan, has a colonial history. So there have been a lot of Portuguese influences. There have been a lot of French influences. There have been so many influences on the landscape of the Philippines that it was kind of hard for us to associate a context that is very native to the Philippines. So we started digging deep, and we found the rice terraces, which is also considered as the eighth wonder of the world. In the absence of a particular coherent architectural reference, we started looking at nature as the provider of our conceptual impetus to fuel this particular design, and that were the rice terraces. So as you can see, the site is being manipulated into those terraces, and the final result is a modern interpretation of the rice terraces of the Philippines. This gave us a big boost. We had a client that listened to our advice, that spent the kind of money that they spent, that let us go to other countries in order to buy materials for them. And any architectural company would find itself in a very good place once they have a good project on their list. So we had the confidence to go on and pitch this particular project in a housing colony called Zintara. Some of you might be familiar with this space. For Zintara Peshawar, the architectural components were part of our scope as the architect for the project. These are some of the initial concepts for one canal houses. This is the concept for a mosque that was derived from the ultimate cube, which is the Kaaba. It is the source of all knowledge. And we thought we'd just start at the source of religious architecture, which is the Kaaba. And the cube was then further disintegrated, and this was the resulting form of the mosque. Some other images of the one canal houses. Unfortunately, this particular context at that particular time did not get the attention of the client, and the project was scrapped. So the lesson we learned here is every client is not the same, and you may be riding the wave of confidence and success, but your one formula does not apply on every client. So my advice to those who have less experience than I have would be to please understand your clients before you move to build a project of theirs. Since I was involved in a lot of project management, and this was a time in which our confidence had taken a dip, and the Peshawar project had not materialized. We took on this particular project and decided to give it our best and listen to the client. This is not a particular type of architecture that we are known for, but nevertheless, when you are an architect, you are running a service and you don't necessarily have to impose your will or your contextual ideas on your clients all the time. Sometimes it is a specific set of requirements that they want. They have a specific problem for you, and you need to come up with a specific solution within a time frame, within a time budget. And this is the end result. So this is what we planned for them, and this is what we built for them. I'm trying to demonstrate to you that through solid, objective project management tools, your buildings can look exactly the way they have been designed, provided that you have the trust of a client and they allow you to be a part of the project whilst you are undergoing the construction phase. So, very happy with the results. As you can see, this is the built and this is the designed form. This is designed, this is the process of the building, and this is the final form. Again, one may argue the design direction, but as a project management, we were happy that this was done in time and in budget. These are some of the interior. Moving along, then we delved into more projects in Islamabad, typically rendering the services of design and construction supervision. 2014 is a year in which we experienced what Rem Koolhaas refers to bigness in architecture. Bigness is not a word, it has been conjured by Rem Koolhaas to define the aspects of scale in architecture. What he means to say is that when we increase the scale of a particular project, the dynamics of that project changes. And we experienced this in 2014, where we were faced with a mixed-use project in Islamabad. Again, we were very excited at the prospect, and in the process, what we did is we ignored the socio-economic aspect of the sector that is called G11.3. I'm going to stay on this for a couple of minutes because I want to impress upon you the importance of socio-economics and demographics. If you are aware of Islamabad, the F10, the F sectors are the rich sectors and the G sectors are the poor sectors. I may not be politically or architecturally correct in saying this, but I want to say this to save your time. There is class disparity in this country that we live in. And this class disparity is reflected in the clothes that you wear, in the schools that you go to, in the cars that you drive, in the buildings that you live in, and even in the sectors that are designed. So G11, what I wanted to do, without the consent of the client and without thinking about the demographics, because we were living in this utopian environment in which we thought we could change the demographics and the socio-economic patterns of a city. And we went ahead and put a luxury apartment building with 52 apartments in a place like G11. The result was it won an award, but it never got made. Eventually, this project went to a friend of ours, and I think it now houses 102 apartments. So, as you can appreciate, the effects of scale and socio-economics, the number of units went up, the price went down, the quality went down. Well, what happened was now the project got made. And the difference between utopia and understanding a client and understanding the socio-economic place that you come from, that you are designing for, is very important. Because if you do not follow those rules or those norms, you will fail, which in this case was a reality. Taking our project management expertise further, we got the opportunity to do this 500,000 square foot project. Architect Sohail Saeed was the designer for this project, and we were the project managers for facilitating everything relating to construction supervision, including your QA, QC, to the supervision by different engineers, to the involvement of vendors. We also gave them a proposal for the interior. But more than that, I want to impress upon the involvement of an architect as a project manager in a project, how important it is, and how it shapes the building, and how the design is executed to this letter in spirit by sticking to what you have designed and going through it through fruition. This is a sketch that I made for a building for Southern Travels, and this is the resultant form. This building is in Bani Gala. It represents the office of a travel agent who do exclusively Saudi airline ticketing. And this was our first all-glass building, and it has a pre-stressed roof on top. As you can see, there's just two columns that is supporting all of this. So to us, it was very artistic, and unfortunately never got made. But that is what happens when you dream big. You win some, you lose some. 2015 for us was the year of hospitals. So what happened was in 2012, I suppose, but before 2012, I will explain to you how we got this project. So there has been a lot of radiation cases in Afghanistan, and a lot of patients from Afghanistan depend upon Shaukat Khanum and Shifa and all these hospitals in Pakistan. So the idea behind this particular project was the higher education and the atomic energy and a couple of more agencies in Afghanistan. They got together, and in Aliabad Hospital, they had this plan to make a hospital to cater to an infrastructure where the residents of Kabul can get treated for radiation therapy in Kabul. We got the good fortune of designing and supervising this particular project. And this is the pointer. So this is the terrain of oh yes, this is the terrain of Aliabad Mound, or King Zair Shah in the 1940s donated this particular piece of land to the government on the proviso that only a healthcare facility can be made on this land. So in the 40s, Aliabad Hospital was made, and this particular extension was then made in 2015. The proposal, and by 2016 they started, and with the advent of the latest Taliban government, this was stopped, but the building is now complete. So the mound of Aliabad provides the context. The contours were taken, reshaped, and made into a hospital. So when I talk about philosophy of a context of a space, this is what we mean. So in order to make your project relevant to a particular space, you take a big chunk of visible landscape from that space and apply it on your architecture. This is the resulting form. This is the structure. And unfortunately, this is where it now stands. Another hospital that we did for the FATA Secretariat was in Miran Shah. As you all know, the North has been engulfed for all the wrong reasons in conflicts over the past few years. So we wanted to do our bit and contribute towards the reconstruction of the areas that were directly affected by the conflict. And this is one of, when the engineers division started doing rehabilitation work, our office offered to give pro bono services in the sectors of education and health. And this is one of the few instances where the idea came into fruition and a public-private partnership was formed. And in the agency headquarters, a space was allocated to us for a ladies' hospital, and the hospital included a nursing hostel, an MS house, and a hospital with 3 OTs, 5 private rooms, 4 wards, a morgue, incinerator, the works, a complete hospital. We're particularly proud of this project because at the time there was a notion that part of the reconstruction activities, these people can just go and live in bunkers, or why do we want to spend so much money on this infrastructure? So our response to such people will always be that humans are all the same, and architects, through their endeavors, need to contribute to society in whichever way they can. We are very proud that through our involvement, this particular project came into fruition. Whilst doing all these other work, we were also involved in earning money for the office. This is one such example. Very proud of the fact it came. So we were the architects, the project managers, and the interior designers for this particular project, and we're happy to share the results. In 2016, the country started progressing, and there were some positive changes that we could notice in the political and the financial landscape. And that financial landscape, it trickles down to industry, it trickles down to professionals, and it trickles down to the other cadres of entrepreneurship. This is one such example, that one of our clients was thriving in the city of Gujarat. Gujarat is a thriving city, but unfortunately, the lack of government infrastructure leaves this to be a tier 3 city, where you have basic health and education facilities, but you can do so much more because people are the same everywhere. And we wanted to create something so that the people of Gujarat do not depend on Lahore and Islamabad for high-level amenities. And this was a high-level hotel and a club that we developed with this client because it was the public enterprise. So we are still working on this project, and this was in somewhere down in 2016, we started with these clients, and since then we've made restaurants and wedding halls for them and other event. The hotel is still a pipe dream, but this is a long-term client that we have nurtured, and through our affiliation, we are contributing towards the city of Gujarat. These are eventually after. These are the as-built pictures of an event space that we created with them, in which Mobiling, Telenor, and other corporations can now host their events in the city of Gujarat rather than depending on Lahore or Islamabad. So, creating infrastructure in Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities, by creating infrastructure, what you're doing is you're taking the load off Tier 1 cities and linearly expanding cities. And these are the interiors of that particular project. As the enterprise was beginning to take shape, other clients from mid Punjab started noticing us, and so this was a particular project that we were involved in the image and the brand making of an automatic car wash. Back in the day, there were no automatic car washes, and this guy brought the first automatic car wash from Germany, and he wanted a brand around it. This brand was graphically and architecturally developed by us when we made one pilot project on GT Road in Rawalpindi. These are some forms and evolution of a concept. So I look at this more like a product design and not as an architecture design. Hence, blurring boundaries. Architecture can sometimes blend into art, product, graphics, services, infrastructure, and then all of a sudden, like a fluid, it can come back together and become something very utopian or practical, or remain as a service, or become very archigram type. So this was our attempt in order to develop a product. This enterprise is called Techno Wash. What it does is automatically washes your car, and you're in and out of the space in 9 minutes. As you can appreciate, you're saving time, and time is money. So this is how the application of the product and the graphic design and the colors were imposed on the architecture of the product. As the enterprise was developing, we were gaining more momentum, and the company's strategy was always not to earn money but to put projects on the ground, so that when you start mapping, so that you're spreading and people start noticing you. And one of the results of that was this particular project. Also, when we started as a company, we pledged to ourselves that for the first 5 years we will not be working with any developers. What a developer does is he comes to you with these nice, big, greedy offerings, and many times what happens is we as architects are struggling, and we capitulate to their demands, the demands which are more often than not detrimental to the environment. So rather than falling into that trap, we kept our distance for 5 to 6 to 7 years, and then this is probably 2017, which was a good 6-7 years after our practice. We got the opportunity to, on our own terms, develop this project in F11. The building was complete, and it is a commercial building, and you do not have any commercial activity, the building is a failure. So then what we did was we brought in franchises such as KFC and Al Fatah in order to start this conversation in where when you put a commercial building right in front of a apartment building, it needs to start interacting with your public. This is the resulting form. This, as you can see, we gave all of this out, and this was retained by the client as offices. And since then, we've put another floor on this as well, since it was responding very well to them financially. By 2017, we were very comfortable in our skin, and so first you struggle, then you struggle with your idea and a concept, then you have to make your company financially stable, and then when you're at par with all those things, existential questions become rising. Existential questions such as, what is the purpose of life? Why am I here? Why is architecture relevant? What am I doing here? And through my endeavors, who am I benefiting? What will happen when I die? These are questions that we want to normalize through our practice, because we feel that what you are should be reflected in your work. And up until this point, it was an existential question, but we had never put it to fear. Through the fear of rejection, we hadn't converted that into action. And 2017 was the year in which we got the opportunity through our clients to give us the right to experiment on their projects, use their money, and start building a debate in which we can create architecture that is regionally consistent, sustainable, and modern at the same time. What happens when you do a lot of modernism, the question of identity begins to arise. So if you do a very nice glass building over here and it gets international awards, what is your relevance or identity to this particular land? And how can you project through your architecture, how can you project your practice, your nationality, your identity, and just the idea of being in a space where you are comfortable? This was the beginning of such a journey for us in 2017, where we touched upon, I call it critical regionalism because it is regional and it is modern at the same time. A lot of the time when we practice regionalism, you will find that your architectural concepts are outdated, but you still do them because they look regional or colonial or from the past. This was such an opportunity that we got in Charsada a few years back, and the resulting form is in front of you. When this happened, we happened to create an image, but there was something missing, so we kept on. Then we tilted on the other side. So as you can see, both are questioning regionalism, but one is something that you've seen a million times, and this is something, okay, fine, some people would say, I don't find this regional. But again, contextually, as we begin exploring this, how does this react to the site? Maybe that is regionalism for you. Unfortunately, this never got made, but we never learn. As artists, sometimes we keep alive because we keep that particular expression alive. And sometimes it's not approved, but it does not mean that you fail to deliver. Art is something very personal, expressed on a universal level. So that person will never become universal if you keep doing things that the public likes. Every now and then you have to do something which is deep-rooted in your heart and make it universal through your expression. And our expression in this case is architecture. And this is another regional. So these are opposite spectrums. What happens is we do things and then we constantly question. So this happened, and then this happened, and then the question remained, which one was more? Why didn't this get made? When this got made, why didn't it give me the satisfaction? Although, the client loved it, we loved it at the time. But your questions and your constant improving should never stop. And in answering those questions, we moved on and we did something that was on a budget, that we feel was regional, and that we feel was modern as well. So this is the render, and this is when it was made. This is a residence in Pindi. It uses local marble, local wood, brick, stone. Our endeavor here was to use nothing imported, and these are the resultant forms. These are some of the pictures of the inside. Again, more opportunities, and we had started looking in this particular direction. So sometimes, okay, fine, so you're not using a brick. What if I use something else and my spatial geometry is that of a courtyard? Can I still call it regional? If it responds to my site and to my temperature, can I still call it regional? These are constant questions that we ask ourselves, and then we answer them through our architecture projects. This is a courtyard house, very close to my heart. Never got built, but happy to share it with you nonetheless. This got made. This again is a courtyard house, a typical one canal courtyard house. But in these are some of the inside spaces. The enterprise strikes back. In 2018, apparently people were doing well, so we sort of joined in. Our client at this time was a university, and we had a big canvas, 124 canals of land to develop these, to develop the plan and the master plan and the architecture. And this was the resultant 120 canals of land. This was the resulting form. This is the building that got built. This is an engineering department. This was another competition in which we started looking at sacred geometry. In Islamic geometry, the circle has no beginning and no end. And that is why many times it is associated with Tawheed or the oneness of Allah. So we took the circle as the most pure shape and as a shape that denotes a singular virtue of Allah, because our language is architecture. So we look for symbols, shapes in order to translate other virtues. In this case, the virtue was the oneness of God, and this was the resultant form. Video ga sang play ki video da sang play ki da video da play ki ga sang
माउस से प्ले करते वहां पर देखेंगे
da
ये अगर इसकी फाइल ओरिजिनल के साथ है वो से होगा अदरवाइज वो नहीं होगा
है सर उसके साथ ही है, but never mind. This is a mosque we did back in the day. It got the first prize. Problem, unfortunately, was that we had a budget of 100 million, and when we designed it, the budget came out to be 200 million. Again, and it never got made. Then we got into value engineering and other things, and we got it down to 140 million, but then the deed was done. So responsiveness to client requirements and client budgets, the lesson here is that no matter you make an award-winning project, you make the best project in the world, if the client does not have the budget or the appetite, it will not get made, and your expression will not come out. Your personal art will not become universal because you failed to understand the requirements of the client, no matter how much time you spent in the studio to work on an award-winning project. If it doesn't get built, an architect will just be a graphic designer, unfortunately. Those are harsh words, but I believe if you do not have that expression culminated in the form of a physical realization, you can show it in presentations and talks, but the fact that it never gets made is a problem. This was a project for Azizi. Azizi is a big developer that used to operate in Afghanistan. Now they operate in a big way in Dubai and the rest of the Emirates. So this was our opportunity to sort of showcase our talent for them in Kabul. This is in Shareno. It was a mixed-use project in which housed apartments, offices, and commercial spaces. So never got made, interestingly, because the glass on this project was so much, and the bombs that are going off in Kabul at that time were so many that in this particular climate you just couldn't have glass. And that is why our hospital got made, because as you can see, if you remember, the hospital was one big concrete block and it got made without any questions. But this guy, because it was full of glass on the lower floors, it got rejected on the proviso that we have so many bomb blasts happening in the city that if you do glass, it'll just break, just through sheer vibration. So moving along, we were getting a lot of private enterprise works, and this was one such. This is in Pindi, in Adiala. Conceptually, we really worked on developing an eye that catches all the public, and it becomes very attractive, and this is a non-objective form. When it's lit at night, it will be great, and we try to break this systematic colonial or Victorian approach towards wedding halls. Unfortunately, this was the end result. Sometimes you can't get what you want, but you need to make sure that the project remains with you. So at the end of the day, you are a service, and if you do not tend to the client's need, then the client will go somewhere else. We're still happy with this, though conceptually it was not as good as the eye according to us, but according to the rest of the world, it is a great hit. And we got many projects due to this project. So again, an example of how the client, his ideology and his conceptual ethos helps shape your practice. This may not be my type of work, but it helped me get a lot of clients, and it's a successful project. And in the end, we are happy that we met these people and they convinced us that this is the type of architecture that they want, that the people want, and we are a service that need to be an answer to their question rather than producing or inventing or innovating something. This was probably not the platform. A social contract was the year 2019 was the year of a social contract for us, by which time my friends had also come up in the corporate chain. They were also in a place where they could start making their own homes, and it was a pleasure to design and construct these houses for my friends. As you go on, some of your batchmates will drop architecture some will pursue something else, some will become doctors and cook and call you in 5 years to make their houses for you while you will be still struggling. But that's how the world goes. This has, so these are houses of the people that I knew and grew up with. And some were friends, some was family. In this case, this was a family member. 2020, we did a lot of collaboration. So DHA Bahawalpur was our project. We stayed on site for them, looking after the requirements of all master planning, from the engineering to the design of bridges, to the sector development, to the road networks, and to the supervision of some of their villas and other projects. This also included a lot of free work, like give us a building, give us a gate proposal, and other such things. This is the same building that we did. When you do a building, you might get a lot of interiors because of that building. And that's why an architect and a developer bond is like the epitome of architecture, where you get into a contract with somebody who, instead of fee, can give you flats, can give you other things, can give you interiors. So it's just a sea of opportunities when you start going into bigness. Big scale of architecture opens the doors. You have to be receptive. And this was one such opportunity. So just continuing with the houses that we made for friends. Houses really are bread and butter. And it also has a lot of scope for expression, for inner expression. It also brings your overall threshold of patience a lot higher when you're conversing with conflicting opinions from the husband and the wife. 2021 saw us go on a different agenda altogether. Now, this is a project that our company is a stakeholder in. Some time back, a few friends, we got together and we got this piece of land in Capital Smart City, and it's a 70 canal parcel of land. So personally, my training has been in mixed-use high-rise projects. And this was the perfect canvas for me in order to flex my muscles and do 2 residential buildings, 4 podium levels of retail, 1 office tower and another communal tower that will serve the city, the capital smart city, and fulfill their requirements of gym, spa, pool, community facilities, restaurants, etc. This is the entrance. This is our communal building. This is the office building. This is called the Capital Wave. This overlooks the river, and from the other side of the river you can see a golf course. So it is a continuous vista of views from these apartments on the other side. This is the riverside. So as you can see, these are apartments. This is the office building. This is all mall, podium level. And then it has 3 apartments. Our quest to always question the existing patterns of architecture led us to this particular project. We were questioning the stereotype villa. We had made many stereotype villas, but every time we made a stereotype villa, the question remained that as architects, we need to provide to the community, to the people, a different agenda, a wider agenda, something they can take, something that adds to the palette. And this particular project it is a product in the form of a villa that we made in Gulberg Greens. This is currently under construction. This we're also doing in Islamabad. Another friend of ours is very happy with this. This is a split level house in which you have 3 levels spread over 6 feet, and then it slowly and gradually meets the mountain at the back. This was our social responsibility project in my hometown in Mardan. This is a project that we completed a couple of years ago, in which our office collected no supervision fee, because what the impetus behind was that a level 2 and a level 3 tier city can receive the same level of finishes that a tier 1 city will receive, provided that you have a solid, objective project management strategy in place. You will have something over. And I'm very proud of the fact that if you go to this building, it is, whilst it is in Mardan, but it will give you the ambience of any bakery, restaurant, or a rooftop cafe that you see in any tier 1 city. And so that is, as you grow older and you get all these projects, and then all of a sudden you get something in your hometown, you want to do more, because service to the community should always be your number one priority. We're too far behind, and we need to put our heads together in order to just take this conversation forward. This is something we did in G8. Again, it's part of the. This is a client that exclusively works with us, because we believe that a service must provide and cater to. So we've done houses for him, we've done this for him, we've done alpine houses for him, we've done interiors for him, and he comes to us, so very proud. A repeat client is vindication of the fact that you must be doing something good. That's why they keep coming back. So always take care of your repeat clients. And this is the final image. So this building is now made, and we're in the process of giving it to a bank on the ground floor. This is socio-economic. A few years ago, what happened was the IT sector received a lot of support from the government in terms of public-private partnerships, in terms of IT sectors, in terms of tax breaks, and this saw a big boost in the IT sector. Now, Islamabad I-9 used to be industrial, but now it is becoming IT. This is one such example of a client who also happened to be on the IT board during the last government. And what they wanted like a Google type of an ambience in a very boring IT place. So what we did, we gave them a jungle. We gave him huts, we gave him blue skies, and we gave him hanging swings. So again, the interpretation of these are very technical. For example, these aren't actually huts, but they're private booths where you can, and pods which are very much required in an IT setup. These are other pictures of the same place. And these are some more residences that we did quite recently. In this type of environment these days, it is very lucky for architects to actually have their projects made, like this one. This is a fully automated house in DHA2. It got made. Unfortunately, this one's still in the process. And this again is another venture for our Gujarat client, where we made a thematic restaurant which looks like you've entered Thailand. This again we did in Mardan. It was our gift back to the community. So we didn't charge any supervision charges. Although even if we had, they wouldn't pay us. I don't think so. But very happy. This is right next to where I live and where we have our lands. So whilst on the way to the orchard, I used to do quick visits, and very proud of the fact that in the back of Beyonds of Par Hoti Mardan, this is the result that we got. This again, the recent interiors. Now, critically, at this point in time, we have peaked out with regards to critical regionalism. And that is something we wish to pursue not only in houses but in offices and headquarter buildings as well. This is one such example where you have a typical arch and a glass enclosed office. So we're constantly exploring with these particular ideas, constantly spatially exploring efficiencies. So this we feel we are now getting more closer to a critical regionalist answer. This again is in Charsada, in which you have a modern building but clad with very sustainable material. This is the residence. This is again another residence in Charsada. We again would like to, this is all rammed earth. So again, we'd like to call this a critical regional approach. This again in Peshawar, PN Farms, Islamabad. Again, we're constantly exploring the use of spatial geometry, the use of material, and the use of lifestyles. The past, theme, what is Islamic geometry, what is the future of architecture, all these existential questions constantly get raised when you do like a sacred place. When you do a sacred place in the form of typical arches and brick, then you question, is this too regional? Are we living in the 21st century? Can I do something modern about it? When you go a little modern, then you lose a little bit of context. So, what is the middle ground? This to us was the middle ground for a particular project in DHA. Then this is a Jamia Masjid in DHA Phase 3, where we really explored the fruits mentioned in the Holy Quran and trying to make this place objectively, which is reflective of the fruits and the gardens mentioned in the Quran, and just to give a glimpse of our understanding of what an expression of the mosque should be. So these are 3 halls. Where a mosque, as you know, is a very varied building type. It will either have 5 users or it will have 500 users. Then it will have 100 users, then it will have 1,000 users. So it really depends on whether you're, and in the morning prayer, you probably might have 6, 7 users. So it's a varied use, and your response also has to cater to that. So our response was just doing 3 halls, and these 3 halls would then respond to whether you're doing an Eid, whether you're doing a Friday, or whether you're doing your general everyday. So courtyard for the everydays, opening this hall for the Friday prayers, and for Eid, if the whole community is coming here for Eid prayers, then we open all 3, and the infrastructure responds accordingly to the use of the client. And then the same client gave us something like this in Sadr, and we jumped at the opportunity because we have a great many experience in mixed-use high-rise buildings and facades. This unfortunately did not make the cut. This was another building that we did in E11. This building then eventually, I believe, Jamshed was given this assignment. This, however, we won this project, and we're very excited to share this with you. And we're also very excited to share this because this is not a developer-run project which has 500 square feet of 1 beds which a family can never use. So this is a family-oriented, big-size apartment building that has 1, 2, 3 bedrooms. with all of these 2 floors as amenities, and a deck over here, and then rooftop restaurants over here. These are the interior, as you can see, very spacious. So this constant balance that we find between what a developer wants, what the public wants, and what the architect is doing in the middle is sort of balancing all of that and delivering something which is a quality product. And this is the entrance and a drop-off area. So this was, I'm open for any questions.
Right, you said about the knowing of the client. Now, can you put some more line in there? Give us some strategies.
Dabion Polish, Dabion Kigi.
See,
Push.
retaining clients is very important.
Yes, sir. I just want to show one very important slide in this. Sorry, it was a long presentation. Apologies if I bored you out of your skin. Now, before I come to answer your question, I'd also like to thank Chairman IEP Peshawar chapter for coming and making us feel at home. Thank you for the executive committee, past chairman as well, Majidla, Essam Subhani. It is good, and most importantly, Noshidla. It is always a pleasure seeing familiar faces. I apologize if this is not clear to you, but there is somewhere down there is a service which is called pre-contract. Pre-contract determines all the facts about the client before you go into the design phase. So more or less what happens, unfortunately, sometimes is we are quick to start designing, then we give a design and the client doesn't know what he wants, so he gives us something, we design, and then there's a back and forth. It wastes time, and then it creates this sense of why is it not happening? For the client, it creates a sense of why are they not understanding what we want? So before setting down and putting pen to paper, we determine the facts that are pre-design and pre-contract. And that is why I say, although this is a free service in Pakistan, unfortunately, this brief making, internationally we used to call it brief making. So when you're making a brief, I'll give you a small example. If you're making a house, you determine the number of residents, their budget, their kids, their ages, their likes, their dislikes, the cuisine that they eat, the type of stuff that they hoard will define the size of their store. Their lifestyle will define whether they're the bedroom type of people or the lounge type of people or a lawn type of people. So these are facts that you determine prior to design about your clients. And we tell the clients that you shouldn't hide anything from doctors or architects, because if you do not give us full disclosure, how can the design respond to what you require? So, because we've made these big mistakes in the past, now we really don't put pen to the paper. We just discuss, and we go there and they come here, and then we have tea and we have coffee, and then they bring their children, and then we have food. So and then when that happens, then we ask them to give us a set of requirements. You see, the clients also have responsibilities. It's not just us. So their responsibility is to give you a brief. You sign that brief and you say, you change it now, you will pay for it. Because now I am set in your mind and I will respond to this based on what you have given me. So when that milestone changes, the design changes, and that's where the confusion happens. So the client also needs to be responsible, and they also have to, you need to do all the extraction. So our procedure sets the tone for pre-contract by determining the facts that come before design. I hope that answers it. Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes, please.
Yeah, you have mentioned in your design philosophy about the sustainability. So my question is, how much of sustainability factor that you take into your consideration while designing a project, and how the client responds to that design?
That is very interesting, actually, you asking that question. What happened in 2009 was that I became a member of the US Green Building Council by taking an exam for leadership in energy and environmental design. The focus of LEED is the reuse and the reduction of resources. And our problem is that if you start reducing everything, now bear with me for a second. The philosophy of reduction will give the marks of the most sustainable person to the person who does not exist. So if you do not exist, you do not have any carbon emissions, you do not have any energy, embodied energy potential, you are not moving, so you are most sustainable. My problem is that humans should be thriving and improving the footprint rather than reducing, recycling. So the answer to your question is that we need to not follow international green building councils, but through research and investigation, create a set of guidelines that are regional, that are sustainable, that are affordable to the client. And they will form a sense of identity. We need to go 300-400 years back, see the reasons for the longevity and the sustainability of those buildings, bring it back and apply it in letter and spirit. So to that extent, we are also partnering up with BERG, which is the Building Energy Resource Center, and we're trying to create guidelines for the Green Building Council. But that is not an AKA initiative, that is an IAP initiative. So I have a very long answer to your question as well, but the short answer is that it is a constant struggle in redefining sustainability goals for the local contextual market. But we will endeavor to work towards it. And that is why we're having a Ram Earth workshop in a couple of weeks in order to impart to the community alternative means of construction, to replace concrete, to replace rebar, to incorporate Adobe and to just go. But other than that, we have other initiatives like build an underground extra water tank, do solar power. All these things are also, no matter how mainstream, these are also very sustainable initiatives. Permeables, you reduce non-permeable so that your stormwater runoff does not go onto the road. It gets into your underground water gets replenished. So there are many initiatives. So I can explain it to you project by project, but the long answer is that you need a set of green building guidelines. The short answer is that whatever you have available, you endeavor to work on sites energy, water, and material. Sustainability is all inclusive, so it has to be incorporated in every approach, especially this automated lighting business. So, for example, you program your building, evening prayer, Maghrib, Makham Muns, light on. Sar Muns, light off. This is, again, it works towards it. So, sustainability, regionalism, technology, they all have to go together in order to make your projects more sustainable. I hope that answers your question. Sir, please.
You mentioned Adobe. Now, we have a lot of rain. So let's see. How do you make it water resistant?
So, if you join us at this workshop, I am not an expert of ram dirt, but we are doing a workshop especially to answer all these queries. Not only waterproofing, but plasticizers, the use of plasticizers, the use of lime water, the use of unburnt bricks. This is all an ongoing discussion that we're having at the IAP-RIC, and GIZ, we are partnering up for this workshop. It's going to be a 2-day workshop. We will release the details to Chairman Kamran Saab, and you can take the details from him or take them from our IAP website. I think it's going to be a very beneficial workshop.
I'm not a member of IAG.
It is open. This is open. It is open to GIZ. It is open to energy professionals. It is open to engineers, this particular session.
Any questions from the student side? Please ask questions. Yes, please.
Can I have a question?
Sure.
So what is your take on AI? I think it really doesn't gonna change the way we do business as usual. What is your take on the defense of AI, or specifically your advocate?
I think I'm not equipped, but to answer that question. But in my very brief knowledge of what we have used AI for, is they will make your life easy in procedural items only. So it can, if my company is looking for an architect, and I'm like, who's going to type this JD? I asked AI to type a JD for me. I do a few keywords and then they. But in terms of giving you tools to enable you to design, I think then AI is doing your job. So I think the creative part, AI will never be able to replace, but it is a good assistant, and then, to me at least.
I have a question.
Yes, please.
Are the architects facing any challenges due to this solar power generation on the rooftop? Are they restricting the designer to be flexible in designing the roof?
In my personal experience, they are ugly things to look at. So what we do usually is we do high parapets now, but the question of not using them is out of the question. So they are here to stay. We will be using, in every project that we do a sink panel for generators, for solar panels, for EV charging, even in the porch. So these things are here to stay. They will have their challenges, but you will have to, the quick answer is that you will have to incorporate them. You can't run away from solar panels.
Someone from the school? So, what can I ask on behalf of the student, what would you recommend for the student of second year how to excel in creativity and in design process.
What is your latest project? Second year.
And kitchen design. And now we are actually given that monumental, monuments on the mountain. So we start with the kitchen, in order to understand a program, and then we let them out roundabout design a monumental
They're doing monuments at the moment? Where?
nearby the Seagull University on the menu.
So, to me, a monument is a direct response to the image of the city. When you're designing a city, you make nodes. You make nodes for two reasons: to create the image of the city, to understand this is a familiar roundabout. There's an right wall chips dukan de. Ikra Chowk that you made a while back. Look at how famous that has become. So the monumentality of a monument directly translates as representational of the image of the city. To me, a monument is very important. It is a direct reflection of where you live. When you take a right turn, what you will find. So it not only is the identity, it is also telling you about the image. So you have to do a lot of research about that particular space. Then a monument will require materiality. Your material needs to respond directly. And then, I don't know, it has to do with visibility. So if you're driving, it needs to be visible. When you're approaching it from a node, when you're looking at it from behind a building, it has to orient you. It has to be identify, and it has to orient you, and it has to tell you about the image of the city, I think. Yes, sir.
Thank you for a nice presentation. I would just like to ask you, we are teaching final year students where the thesis design. How would you like to guide them? What should they be considering while designing their projects? Obviously, every individual has their own project. So, what do you think? What can you guide them? How could you give a few basic things that you want every student to consider that while designing that project?
When is your thesis, sir?
It just started. Finally, they submitted the synopsis. Their projects have been selected, and they are working on that.
So I advise them to go over their synopsis again. If they have an iota of doubt that this can be better or I've chosen the wrong project, go back and do it again and give yourself 3 to 4 months of collection of data. Thesis, go to the site, live over there, feel the site, use it as a different user from the perspective of every user, and then start putting pen to the paper. Research is very important, and so there's data, there's research, and then there's the applicability of relevant research. I think the best tool right now for your thesis students would be to look for the most relevant data, because data samandar de. Where to look? So you need to give them tools so that they can fish the right data for their project. Because if you don't, then they will go randomly here and there. And if you do, they will collect so much relevant research, and that their vision will, then they can look at it at a macro level. They can draw on inspiration. They can look for similar projects. And then the whole world is teaching them, not only CCOS. So the ability to get the knowledge, the information that they want, and how to look for project-specific research. I think. I may be wrong, but that's what I think.
That it was that they should look for the relevant case studies, relevant
Yes,
books,
yes.
relevant research papers.
Yes, yes. That is how you draw on the information from the world. Like, there's no need to reinvent the wheel. You draw on inspiration and from knowledge from all sources. And then you use that individual expression and make it universal. But before that, you have to have the tools.
Everyone can take such a path. It isn't an easy path to take. It involves a lot of risk, and you have learned to throughout the time, throughout the years, you expand it, right? So, how did that process go for you? Could you elaborate that first?
Yeah, sure. So I graduated in 2004. In 2005, I joined a practice called Designers East, which is now split into SRDW and Designers East. So I worked with them for 8-9 months. Then I got fired. Then I went to work for Beacon House. It happens. Then I went to work for Beacon House as their school designer. So we did a few schools over here. Then after the earthquake in October 2005, I really wanted to, I had lost some people who were very close to me, so I wanted to contribute. Then I worked for an evangelical organization called Tear Fund. I was their shelter advisor, and we made some shelters and houses and retrofitted existing houses in Kashmir. Then I went to work for Habib Fida Ali for a year in Karachi. Then I worked for that Australian company that I mentioned, Woods Bagot, for 3.5-4 years. Then I came back to Pakistan. So I had just 6-7 years of experience, and everywhere I went, I had great mentors. I was very lucky, and I was accumulating throughout. I knew at the back of my hand that I was accumulating all of these tools to eventually set up an objective workplace, and that happened in 2011 then. So I had these 6-7 years to gain experience from established companies, to learn from their mistakes, and then finally and the company I made much later on. So we started off as a sole proprietorship. Then over the years, we started getting bigger projects came, bigger players, the government, the army, and then they required a larger scale, a company that had over 40 to 50 employees at one particular time, dispersing payrolls up to 5 million, 6 million a month would not happen through a sole proprietorship. So I had to register a company then. So it's all a very gradual process where you work in small offices and larger offices. You have overseas experience, you have experience abroad, and then you start applying it, because at the end of the day, there is more giving to the community in architecture than a lot of other fields. So it was a gradual process. I didn't start working as I graduated. I think it's lunchtime. Everybody wants to have lunch. Get the hell out of here. Maaf abke, prem de. Anyways, I'm here and I'm available for the next 1 hour, if not on the stage, then with these lovely gentlemen. I'm available to take your questions, and even after that, I will be available in my office. I have been mentoring students like yourself for quite a while now. So I'm happy to answer any questions or discuss projects with you or discuss thesis projects with you. Karmara sibnishtalan savet.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.